Behind every successful endeavor in life is a relationship built on trust. Welcome to The Trust Doctor, restoring trust and enriching significant relationships. A podcast focused on helping you nurture healthy relationships. Join thought leader and world-renowned expert on relationship and empowerment coaching, Dr. Patty Ann, and her special guests every week for insightful and meaningful conversations filled with great takeaways that will help you build healthier business partnerships and happier romantic relationships. Are you ready to restore trust and enrich the significant relationships in your life? The Trust Doctor, Dr. Patty Ann, is in.
Welcome to today's podcast episode of The Trust Doctor, restoring trust and enriching significant relationships. And today we have a part 2 interview for you with the infamous Scott Danner. But before we go any further, you know I'm going to ask you to please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. So if you've been listening to me, you know a little bit about Scott already. So I'll briefly just repeat myself and let you know that Scott is so much more so, but he is the CEO of the Freedom Street Partners. And he is passionate about empowering people to gain freedom financially through discipline. But as I mentioned, Scott is such an all-around awesome Renaissance guy. And I am so delighted that he has agreed to part 2 of this podcast because we left off last time. And if you didn't hear it, go back and listen to it. And we were like, no, we need more time. So without further ado, welcome, Scott.
Thank you so much. So for part 2, I even grew a little bit of scruff just so there'd be a difference between the 2 recordings, but I'm so excited. I talk to a lot of people and we do podcasts quite regularly now. And this was one of my favorite conversations. I mean, we obviously connected on so many levels. We got to meet in person a couple weeks later, which worked out even great. And we even run similar lives. I mean, I was leaving the gym. You were coming into the gym. Like, right. It's a perfect connectivity. And I love your energy. And I think we're excited for part 2. So hopefully everybody else loves it too.
Great. And in case people are listening and not watching, you might hear the scruff in Scott's voice. I don't know.
Scruff
from the kid. All right.
Scruff from the beard.
So, we could have been chatting like for hours even before I started the recording, right? So we were at the place of relationships and women and children and how we empower people. So we were talking about history, I think is where we left off. It might have been Lincoln. So what do you remember of where we wanted to start off now?
Well, I think we were talking about a couple of things that really I think we hit on that we wanted to talk deeper about. Number one is you asked me a question about how I built my business. Mm-hmm. And I gave you the answer, which was I was 23 years old in the financial industry, and I am cold calling and knocking on doors and doing anything it takes to build my business. And the reality is I realized very quickly that men don't want to give you a shot. They look at you like you're their son. You're a 23-year-old punk kid who doesn't know anything yet. Okay. Women look at you like you're their son and you can change the world. You can be anything.
I love that, right? It's the same thing. A man looks at you like you're their son. And I have so much to teach you, son, because you know nothing. And a woman looks at you like, you're my son. How may I help you?
Yeah. One sees all the things you're not. One sees all the things you can be. Exactly. And so the reality is I started teaching David Bach's book, Smart Women Finish Rich, I started at a library and I had 3 people maybe there the first time. And I had memorized every aspect of this presentation in the book. And it was I listened to the tapes on how David had done it. And I was like, I could do this. I can deliver this. And I started and I got 20 to 30 women. Then I would have crowds of 100 women. And then I was speaking to the National Association of Retired Teachers. And it just developed into something much bigger. And what I learned was, I like to laugh about it because I had 5 aunts and an uncle growing up on my mom's side of the family, Italian Catholic family. So
Where are you from, Scott?
I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Okay, because you said aunts as opposed to aunts.
Aunts, yeah,
but where I'm from, aunts.
Yep, I say both words. So occasionally I'll say aunts. Sometimes I say aunt. If I call them something, it's Aunt Annette, Aunt Paulette, Aunt Teresa. But
all
if I'm
Italian
referring
names.
to them, yeah, Italian and French. So, but I grew up in this environment with all these women around me all the time, and they were all teenagers. I mean, at the end of the day, I was the firstborn grandson. I didn't know the wealth of opportunity I had in front of me, which was learning from strong women. I got to see every aspect of relationships, their marriages. I was involved in so many things growing up that most kids don't get to be. And I was an old soul. So I really listened and learned. And when I got to college, I remember guiding my friends on things that they just didn't understand. And I was like, oh no, I've heard this. I sat at the beach and listened to this conversation. I understand. And here's what it meant.
The men that grew up with women or had sisters or like what you just described, they got the playbook on how to deal with women. So absolutely.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is we are uniquely different in a lot of ways, but when you understand the similarities and you understand the thing I mentioned earlier, that just the wanting to have a relationship versus a transaction can be so much more beneficial. One of the lines that David Bach used in his book, which I loved, is, what are women better at than men? And I would ask the room and they'd throw out words, and words would range from, everything, right? But here's what it was. The one word that resonated the most was the word commitment. And it was commitment to just about everything. They were more committed to their financial paths once they set it. They were more committed to relationships early on. They knew what they wanted early, but they saw the possibility lot. And so here's what it meant in business. And I'll round this part out. And I think we had some really good thoughts here. But what I really learned was I was early in understanding that women were actually becoming the head of households financially. I was early in seeing the trend of more women going to college than men. I was early in educating. I had husbands that would call me and say, why did you give my wife all these questions to ask me? I've never had these questions, and I've been running these things for years. And I would say, listen, I've been on the other side. What forced me to do this is one of my very first clients. I'll never forget it. Her husband was 55 years old and he passed away. She only would be on the phone. She wouldn't come in. I never met her face to face. She would literally approve things with a quick phone call, and that would be all the interaction. I did not know this person. And when he died, when a young person dies, I was in the line for the wake, and it was an hour and a half long. And I remember just thinking to myself, I don't even know this person. It's my job to make sure they're protected. It's my job to make sure all their money's in the right spot and her insurance is covered and her family has a legacy. And I'm going inch by inch, 30 minutes. And I finally get up and this lady bursts out crying when I introduce myself, which is not my favorite.
Now you were on the phone. It wasn't.
This is actually, I'm actually at the wake for this.
But I meant all those calls were not video calls. They were phones. So she never.
Yeah, this was a long, you got it. Great. Great help. Absolutely. Never seen her face and probably only talked to her to say, is it okay if and she would always say, whatever my husband says, just do it. And that was it. Like I got nothing. Right. So I'm in line. She starts bawling and hugging me. And I will never forget the feeling. I'll never forget the moment. And I just said, everything's going to be fine. And she said, I don't know if I even can pay my bills. Do I have a mortgage? Is the house paid for? What are my bills? What do I have? Does he have insurance? Can I even get through the year? And I mean, she asked me all these questions. People are waiting in line to talk to her. And I just put my hand on her shoulder and I said, I've got you. We will figure it out. I don't know all the answers, because obviously we don't know each other very well.
Well, and you had to check the portfolio because you didn't think you were going to be grilled at the wake.
Well, and truthfully, there was also, it was very new in my business. So I was learning how to not only handle the relationships, but really understand all the other things I needed to know. I mean, I was probably 24 years old at this time. So the long story short is I vowed to educate and learn from that experience. And that Monday, she ended up having a celebration of life for the weekend. Monday morning, I was in her house having a cup of coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning with a couple family members, literally digging through files to try to find everything. And we did it. We found everything. She's somebody that I've worked with for 2 decades now. But the point that I'm getting at is all that experience, all that stuff led to me wanting to do those conversations, those events, and build my business with women and relationships that were a little deeper than the transactions that so many of my peers were focused on.
I mean, gosh, I have goosebumps listening to that story because, I had held up earlier my book title, my second book, Money Can Buy You Happiness, right?
Right.
Because people say, no, it's not, it's not. I'm like, well, it gives you choices. It gives you opportunities. If that woman had to change her entire lifestyle, sell her home, get a job, let me tell you something, money might have made her happy because I saw what my mother had to do when my father suddenly passed away. But the difference between men and women is that for the most part, right, and there's always exceptions, women are relational, men are transactional, right? And you were able to capitalize on that. So I also understand for working with women and their relationship to money is that women will take a long time to vet a financial planner like you. Like they will research you. They will probably know your shoe size, right? They won't care about the diplomas on your wall. They don't care about any of that. The men are impressed with the glitter, right? They want to know that. They want to know who you know, where'd you go to school. What women care about is that you care about them. So it might be slow, this is my understanding, to get them to reel them in. But then once you have them, as you said earlier, they're committed and they're committed for life. Has that been your experience?
It is 150%. And the truth is, you know why? Because women do a better job of seeing through the garbage that is sales. And so now I'm not saying that there aren't things that women don't see through the things that are sales, but when it comes to human interactions, authenticity goes a really long way. Sometimes with men, if you're too authentic, they think you're weak. Mm-hmm. Like it's a vulnerability. It's absolutely the opposite. It is the opposite. And I told a guy last night, I said, it's really funny. I have a 15-year-old son and he's an alpha male. And the challenge with men is I'm an alpha male and he's an alpha male. And so what does that mean? That a young alpha male,
war. It explains war.
Yeah. A young alpha male hasn't realized yet that better together is real. So two strong opinion, independent men or women or anybody doing something together is always better than one fighting the other with that scarcity mindset. So having that abundant mindset, it takes a little bit of time, and we're working as most families do. We're working through understanding that, but occasionally, there's a little bit of this bravado or cold shoulder. Even like if I give in to dad too much, I'm showing him my weaknesses. And the truth is that's something that some people never outgrow. And I was blessed enough and lucky enough to not be afraid of that level of vulnerability, but always to be strong in the places that I knew I needed to be strong. And I think that as a leader, that's an authenticity factor that goes way further. And in listening in the relationships, when you're sitting down with anybody, and I don't care about business when it comes. I mean, yes, what I do for a living is I run a financial advisory company and I do appointments with clients, and I'm in these interactions for 20 years. I've been doing this and I love that, but it's the same as anywhere you go in life. I mean, if you can connect with somebody at a different level, at a higher frequency, what you get out of that relationship is immense. And here's where it starts. It starts with me giving of myself something to you, not me taking something from you. So I'm even looking for that in interactions today in business. I don't want to work with anyone who's just looking to take something from me. I want to give to you first. And when you find someone who's willing to give to you, guess what? They'll give you everything they possibly can if you're also giving of yourself.
1,000%. And the giving has to be authentic though, right? Because
True.
some people, so a couple of comments on what you said about knowing early on the concept of, better together. You had a head start because you were privy to a very sacred space. And the sacred space was, you heard, this is a euphemism, if that's the right word. You heard the bathroom conversations that women have.
100%
at the beach, right?
Yes.
That's where women tell the truth. We are literally, I hope this doesn't gross people out. We are literally walking into the bathroom talking, go into the stalls to pee. We are still talking. We come out, we are talking. We wash our hands, we're talking. We go back to the table, we're talking. We drive home and I'll tell my husband, did you know blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah about something? He goes, what are you talking about? Well, how did you know that? I said, well, they told me. He goes, what do you mean they told you? We were at dinner the entire time together. I said, well, didn't we go to the bathroom? Don't you know we talk in the bathroom?
Yeah.
And you had that conversation with your family at the beach. What did you talked about vulnerability? And I was so struck by this, Scott. And this is where I feel our connection. I was just looking again at something, prepping for an event next week. And there's you're going to hear a lot more now about trust and empathy. That seems to be the buzzwords now in the world, right? We have we go through phases. So now it's trust and empathy for leadership. And the concept of building trust, trust is a formation of every relationship, especially if I'm going to give you my money. I am trusting you with, other than my medical life, I am trusting you with my life, with my lifestyle, the lifestyle I can provide for my family. And the way you develop trust is there's a concept called, and tell me if you've heard of this, the vulnerability loop. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, keep sharing because I want to listen more. Everybody has different versions of everything that they teach. So I'm
Okay.
always interested in learning from you.
Okay, well, you probably know the accurate one. I'll tell you what I think it is. So the more trust a relationship has, the more somebody will be willing to share their vulnerabilities with them, right? So you said men see vulnerabilities as weakness. Women see vulnerabilities as authentic, right? So if I'm in a relationship with somebody, if I'm a leader of any capacity and I share a vulnerability with them, then authentically, of course, then they are more willing to share their vulnerability with me. And the deeper the vulnerabilities go, the deeper the trust is. So if you think about a marriage, right? When there's an affair, what happens is the reason why it is so painful is because to develop a love relationship, the only way you can develop intimacy and love is by exposing voluntarily your vulnerability. And when somebody betrays that, it is devastating. So you have I probably shouldn't use this person with you, but you have a Bernie Madoff. He betrayed people's trust. And it was so devastating. And yes, the money was a huge part, but there is also a piece of yourself where you feel, who can I trust now? And if we don't have trust in the world, what do we have? Maybe where we are today.
You said two things that I think are really important that I don't want to gloss over. And I think this is crucial. Number one, I've said for years, people get divorced for one of two reasons, according to, it's sex and money. And I always say, I can't help you with one of them, but I can help you with the other. And it's always a funny kind of joke. But here's the reality.
It is true.
You talk about vulnerability. When somebody talks about their financial body of work, okay, I equate it to, it's almost like the vulnerability people feel when they step out of the shower in the morning and they look in the mirror and they don't like what they see. Because most people don't like what they see in the mirror, and they haven't found that comfortability and confidence and self reassurance that it takes to really move into, a position of strength.
But
And guess what?
We'll call it the naked truth.
The naked truth. So the naked truth
Right?
is
you
the
get
same.
out of the shower and there you are. It's the naked truth.
You're looking at yourself and you see all your inadequacy or where you're strong, but where you're not. We're overweight. Your eyes are puffy. Like all the things, like everybody feels it. I don't care how good you look. Right. Everybody can find something they're not proud of. Okay. Right. And if you don't, then you're lying to yourself, and you have even deeper work to do. But here's the point. When someone comes in and talks about their money, I've always looked at it like they're doing that with me in the room. So you're sharing every single thing you have, every vulnerability, every mistake, it's like, well, I should have done this and I should have done that. And they are shamed. They are feeling, and even if they've done great, they never feel, we go to Genius Network, and there are a lot of really awesome people in Genius Network. And the truth is, some are way more successful than each of us in their own realms.
Financially.
Yeah. But we can find something, is my point. Yeah. That they might be better at. And if people harp on those things, they miss it. Right. So I believe that there's a naked truth in that capacity. And that's a really important thing. I also think when you say trust plus empathy, I love this because I've done a couple of videos on this topic. I'm really diving deep into it. We have a generation of young people that are very empathetic. They come out of school, and we interview them a lot of times, and they want to change the world, right? And so I'm thinking about going to this nonprofit, or I'm thinking about doing this, or they feel something so strongly, but they just feel it. And maybe there's several that just don't do anything about it. So I say empathy is great, but if empathy without action is a lot of times where you get into a loop that you can't get out of, because you're always feeling sad for somebody, something, the next. But what I try to do is add a little bit of action, even if that action is, how can I make a change in the world? How can I help this person cope with this? Maybe it's bringing them dinner, but empathy isn't just feeling sorry for someone. It's adding just a little bit of action along the way. Maybe if I'm so empathetic about a cause, I go to work for it. Right. Like there's so many things that you can do. And I love the way the mind is thinking. I just am more excited about the opportunity it presents when they start putting that empathy with some of the action to really change the world for the better.
It's interesting because I had not quite thought about it that way, because I was thinking about it more from a human relationship perspective. But for people with the whole concept of empathy, what you can do sometimes, and this, people might laugh when I say this, but what the action is active listening, right? On a one-on-one basis. And what you're saying you run into is that there's like instead of analysis, paralysis by empathy. And sometimes I think that gets people into a woe is me, cry me a river mentality. And now what have you done? Now you've just embraced being a victim, and being a victim never serves you well at all. Right. And go ahead. You're smiling.
No, I just love it. I love victim versus victor. I mean, you're using the language. This is why I love talking to you, because you can be victimization is when mentally, when we're going through that loop, we have to choose how we're going to receive that information, right? We have to choose if you could be the victim of something very bad. I'm not diminishing those things. Bad things happen. How we respond to bad things happening in our lives. I had a flat tire on my brand new Tahoe yesterday, and it's one that the nail goes in, and it's like, okay, it has 3,000 miles on it. It took me 8 months to order it. And the nail goes through the corner. And so now it needs a brand new tire. And, I'm blessed that I can get a brand new tire and it's no problem. Right.
Right.
But there was a time in my life where I wasn't, and it would have been easy to say, how can this happen to me? I got a brand new car. I got to put a brand new tire. Like, how do you just start to get in this loop of negativity and victimization? And I just love the way you're describing it, because I do believe the same thing.
Well, and it's the concept, and you've heard this in Genius Network. I think Sean Stevenson said it, and I never had the privilege of knowing him, but is it being done to you or for you? Right? Whenever you talk to anybody, and I'm sure you see this in your work as well, people will tell you at the moment when you're going through, we'll call it hell, right? When you're going through hell. So of course, who is it that said, Churchill or somebody, like, when you're going through hell, you keep on going? Right? So you don't quit. There's something to be said for that. But when you look back on those challenging moments in life, most people would tell you they never want that taken away from them, because it taught them something. If they were able to look at it as, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Because, and then it goes back to the whole conversation of failure. Right? I don't remember if we talked about failure, but if you don't fail, you can never learn. Because if you're always comfortable, you're not learning.
Right.
And what's so exciting and challenging, and the push-pull is, so, all right, I'm trying to learn Spanish. I know 2 languages now. I know English and Brooklynese. Right? Most people don't understand my Brooklynese. There's a whole story about that one too. And I had a really wealthy, obnoxious person, after grilling me for hours, was saying, where'd you travel? I'm like, I don't know. I went to Brooklyn. I went to Queens. Like, I was a lot younger. And he's like, oh, well, I went to Spain and I went to here. And like, these were exotic places to me at the time. Right.
Right.
And then after like a half an hour of being grilled, I'm like, all right, this isn't funny anymore. I'm qualified. You want my help? I can help you. If not, adios amigos. And he goes, well, how many languages do you speak? And I said, 2. And I just, the silence was deafening, and I'm fast forwarding, and he goes, and I waited. I made him ask me, so what's the other language? I'm like, you've never heard of it? No, of course I have. I speak Portuguese, Brooklynese. And that was my way of telling him, cut it out. I know what you're doing. Either you want to work with me or you don't, but stop already. You've vetted me enough, right? But anyway, how do we get into that? So I am trying to learn Spanish, because I really would love to know another language.
And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh. It's like, but so here's the thing. I'm learning. Right, I think I'm up to a 72-week streak. Right. So it's sort of kind of new. I do it 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. Right. BJ Fogg, tiny habits.
Yep.
Right. You can carve it out. Go to the bathroom. When you wake up, you have your coffee, 5 minutes. You can do that. And what I've learned is I'm a visual learner, which I really didn't know. You'd think I'd know by now, right? But I didn't, because I can read much better and understand, but I am a reader, right? I think you asked me that question.
Right.
Then when I hear it, because I took French. So when I see ELLE, I think L, but it's Elja. I don't even know how to say it right. So it's so uncomfortable and it's so frustrating, but I'm like, I'd be damned. I'm going to learn how to do this.
But you're not afraid to fail. The point you're stretching your zone. You're getting uncomfortable. The perfect analogy to what you're talking about is I've told the story several times recently. A couple of months back, I was rushing. I had a really, really long, trying day. One that if I tried to explain to anybody, they would not have even understand. The decisions I had to make were immense and significant, and I was emotionally drained. And we had dinner plans with our good friends and neighbors. And so the doorbell rings, and I'm like, what's the doorbell ringing? And I go to the door, and there's a pizza man, a pizza guy there, and he's delivering a pizza. And I recognize the young man. I've known him. He dated a family member, niece of mine. And so,
Dominoes.
Yeah. So super, super, super nice kid. Okay. But, he's at the door and he just says, he delivers a pizza and he has this very sad face on. And he says, I really miss your family. I really loved being around your family. Your family dynamic was something that was really special to me. And he almost has, tears in his eyes, and he does have tears in his eyes. And And so I talked to him for a minute. I said, oh, it's good. It's good that you get to know what you like. It's good to there because there's no more relationship. And so I kind of was like, you know what? I need to do something for this young man. So I went and I grabbed more cash and I wanted to give him a larger tip. And I didn't even know a pizza was coming to the door. That's how good my wife runs the house. She has everything set. The kids were taken care of. Everybody was good. So I run outside and I get to his car and I hand him, I don't know, extra money, a good amount where he's like, no, you've already given me enough. And I said, listen, I feel like you need a little extra right now. And I don't know why, but I feel like you need extra and you need to know that you deserve it. And he really almost breaks down and he says, I've just been going through a really hard time. Can you tell? And I said, I can. And I said, but tell me about it. What's going on? And he said, I'm lost. And just a little backstory and then a quick end is, you know, this kid was like a straight A student, someone that was crushing life, like as far as school goes, right? Mm-hmm. But he decided instead of taking a step to go do something, he decided to take a year and just figure it all out. Okay.
The gap year.
Yeah. Just figure it all out. So he's completely lost trying to figure it all out. And it's easy to see. And so he goes, I feel like school was just so much anxiety. And I said, listen, I'm going to say something strong and it might seem harsh to you, but I want you to understand something. Not everybody is great at school. You were a superstar at school, number one. So now you're ignoring something you're great at to try to find something else. That's a bad thing. Number two is on the other side of anxiety can be success. And you have to get through a little bit of that hard time to understand that anything worth having in life means it's going to have a little stress. It's going to have a little bit of uncomfortability. Mm-hmm. And he goes, so what you're saying is I should just keep going and go past the anxious moments. And I said, look, I don't know what you're feeling. And I'm just talking to him outside. I said, I don't know everything you're feeling. I don't know everything you're battling. What I can tell you is if we're just talking about your future, if you just keep pushing forward, past those moments of anxiety is going to be successful moments, because as you approach the hell you were talking about, there's that level of success and challenge that you overcame it. And now you know you can do more. And you need to give yourself that confidence. And he goes, so what do you think? I said, get your ass back in school, dude. That's what I'm telling you. Go to school and figure it out at school like so many other kids. I mean, and I'm a guy that would tell you, if school wasn't for you, don't go to school. I don't care. But this kid's school was right. And so he left and he started following me on YouTube. And every once in a while I'll get a message from him. But the point is just being able to tune into the frequency of watching some of the challenge that we see in people losing the mentality of having faith in themselves to be uncomfortable and to trust that failure is natural. Failure, like you said, is just a natural progression towards success.
Well, the expression, darkest before the dawn, right? But we, gosh, I feel like grandmother time here, but the younger kids are raised where, first of all, I don't know if we talked about this before, everybody gets a trophy, right? So, Johnny goes up to bat and there's 3 pitches, and he swings 3 times and he strikes out and everybody claps, great job. Actually, no, Johnny, you sucked. Now, let me show you what you need to do. If you want to be good at this, this is the steps we take. Or maybe you have a strength somewhere else, but you can't quit. You have to finish your commitment, right? Yep. So we have an issue with commitment because why? Because when it becomes uncomfortable, we skedaddle. And we've allowed that to happen. I really don't think I want to go here, but I'm a little baffled. And look, I'm a clinical psychologist. I get emotions, I get mental, I get all that. And I know it's real, but I am a little baffled of these high-paid professional and highly endorsed amateur athletes all of a sudden bowing out because it's too much pressure. I don't want to sound unempathic at all. And I am not saying that these people do not have inordinate pressure on them. However, I'm just feeling like It's always been there, but maybe now there's permission.
There's
Is that it?
publicity. I think, look, my first inclination when I see an Olympic athlete say that they've caved to the pressure is, number one, there are 50 other kids that want your spot. Don't go if you can't handle it, period. Like, at the end of the day, I think it's fine to step out. I have no problem with you bowing out. Now, when you go to represent your country, or you go and you're in this high level of performance,
Pressure cooker. It's a pressure cooker.
It is
There's no
pressure.
doubt.
And I've not been there. Okay. So I'm not even saying I know how I would respond. All I'm saying is the publicity, the media wants to show weakness constantly. They want to show all these people failing all the time because it's a better story to sell. It's better to sell failure than it ever is to sell success. Success is short-lived because someone always has to do it bigger and better next, but the publicity surrounding the significance of quitting it's like I'm supposed to celebrate that. I don't do that. I will celebrate the fact that if you've hit a limit and you genuinely need to pull back to provide yourself the strength and stability to move forward in life, I'm going to be a top supporter, which I know you are as well. But I think if you're going to use it as an excuse to not perform at the level that you should be or could be performing, that's just an excuse, and you're naming something else as the issue.
So Scott, are we the silent majority? Right? Because in public, I don't know if I would share my feelings.
Well, we're sharing it in public now. And so,
right. And we might get hate mail.
Yeah, but believing in something is better than believing in what everybody else says. I'm so sick of sheep. Everybody just believes whatever they're supposed to believe. And then when you ask them a question, people have forgotten curiosity. Curiosity is really important. Why is this important? If you're not asking yourself questions when you're given direction or when you're told to believe in something, or if you don't ask questions, you are literally just doing what you're told all the time. Right. And I mean, that is not something I don't want that in our business. I don't want that I want people to be curious. Mm-hmm. And curiosity creates more opportunities to discuss, to understand each other, to understand different sides and different perspectives and different upbringings. And, I love that about relationships, which is where we started, and vulnerability, because when you pull those things in, you actually can explore the bounds of where someone is comfortable and where they're not. And so if my son came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, it's too much stress. The soccer is way too much. I gotta take a break." Guess what my role is? You got it, buddy. Whatever you need. But I want to talk to you about it. Tell me what's on your brain. What's the challenge? Mm-hmm. Let's try to ask some questions to help better understand, not just empathize, but actually understand. And people have forgotten that they can also help other people. I think the other thing is people don't want any personal responsibility. They want to just say, "Oh, they can't do anything about it. They can't do anything. They're just not able."
Right. No, because it takes work.
Right. It's hard work. And so I don't know that there is a majority or a minority or any level of decision-making, but I do believe. Look, I'm the guy that watched my son play one season of T-ball when he was like 4 years old. And we got in the car and I asked my wife, I said, "Why do people let their kids play a sport and never, ever, ever show them or teach them any level of it?" Like, I had to watch some kid strike out on a T-ball thing 72 times, it felt like. And everyone's just like cheering, like, keep going. Right. Like, at a certain point in time, can little Johnny move on and let someone else have a turn to hit the ball?
Yeah, exactly.
And Dad and Mom go home and help him learn that, because you could do that. I believe in you. And the coaches and my wife was like, "I think you're taking this a little too seriously." And I said, "I'm not. Everybody's time is valuable. And we're out here watching one kid hit it the first time, another kid take a couple times, and one kid take like 22 swings. Yeah. Eventually just let him run around the bags and come back." So that's that mentality of,
but don't let him think he's better than he is. And then we have the whole growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. But let's go back to what you said about the empathy. So here's what's really interesting. We now know that empathy is a competency, that it can be learned. Like, this is new, like sort of kind of hot off the press. I think it was one of Steve Kofler's books, the Peak Performance one of those books. This is not my learning, right? This is somebody else's, but I see it. And basically, so one of the ways that you can increase empathy is by, as we know, but now we have the neuroscience, we can see the brain scans behind it, is to walk a mile in the other person's shoes. I actually just talked about this yesterday at Cameron Herold's COO Alliance, where I was talking about rebuilding trusting CEO, COO business relationships. And in the past, you hear empathy, or how do you do that? The same with trust. How do you do that? Now we have tools, right? So when you walk a mile in another person's shoes, if you literally imagine yourself in their position, so many different concepts here, you begin to empathize with them. You can start to understand where they're coming from. So now we know, so this is so cool, and we don't really know why this is true. Motion resonance creates emotional resonance. Now we know this, and I'll tell you why we know it. I think it was Paul O'Neill, the New York Yankee, who was one of the first athletes that used to practice batting like 500 times before he ever picked up the bat. And he just visualized it, right? But you have to do it perfectly. When we watch a movie, right, we're so upset when there's something happening. It's Hollywood. We know it's Hollywood. We know it's fake. But what happens is when we watch something or experience a sensation of somebody else, our brain lights up as if we ourselves are doing it. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Fascinating. So if you can put yourself in someone's shoes to experience their pain, sadness, joy, like I love to celebrate people's wins too. I'm like, oh my God, good for you. It's like a peace of mind, just like your sadness is a peace of mind. That creates the empathy. But the only way we can do that is if we stop all the noise, which social media is a part of, and listen. So when you listen, bring it full circle. The why question, I must ask, I can't even tell you how many times a day with coaching clients. Whatever they tell me, I'm like, help me understand that. Help me understand why. Like tell me more. Is it what you think it should be? Is it what other people will tell you? Is it your inner critic? Is it your childhood? Is it your boss? Like, just help me understand. And there's so much confusion out there. People believe what they believe. They don't really believe it. But to your point, they've been told they should.
Yeah. So and just a little bit of curiosity can move them to a whole different place. And you know what? Here's something else. I'm not afraid to change my mind. So the other thing is, I'm not afraid to be wrong today. I don't believe in this mentality that just because I said something 5 years ago, that's who I am or what I believe today. I am a person that is continuously growing and learning. And my belief on something today may change tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to be open to think that way. And most people are so confined to believe what they know now is finite. It's not. It's just the start. True wisdom comes when you realize you don't know anything.
Right. Although the more you know, like I definitely have found this out in life. The more I know, the more I'm like, oh my God, I know nothing. This is an embarrassing statement. This is so embarrassing. So I always studied the sciences, right? So in college, I took the one history prerequisite. I can't even tell you what the course was. It fit into my schedule. I think it was a Wednesday at 1:00. Don't remember anything, the class, the professor, nothing, right? The prerequisite, got it done, got an A, but I don't even know what part of history I studied. Seriously? All right. So I decided as I got older, my kids got a little bit older, I'm like, all right, we're not going to be watching TV at night because we're not running around nonstop from morning till night. So I'm going to start to read history. Always loved to read. My mother loved history. Do you know, Scott, I didn't understand the song, I'm Henry VIII I am, Henry VIII I am, until I learned about King Henry VIII's wives. How dumb was I? And I said to my husband, I can't believe I don't know this. And he goes, I can't believe you don't know this either. but I actually, there's a brilliant man I know. He's going to run for the presidency of his country one day. He ran once before, he lost, but he did that as a trial balloon to see how it really works. And he said his greatest learning is that he has to unlearn what he thought he knew to learn. And that's a sign for you also of high emotional intelligence. Like you're willing to change your position because your self-esteem and your ego is not predicated upon being right. So it's okay to have been wrong, to learn something new. But most people don't want to do that now.
Yeah. And it comes back to that fear of failure. At the end of the day, there's no greater failure than when everyone knows it's yours, right? If you have to own it and you get to say, I'm wrong. I mean, there have been many moments and you talk about learning empathy. You know, I've always been someone who spoke up, spoke out, argued for things. Mm-hmm. If I thought I could help move the needle somewhere, I fought for it. And in doing that, you also learn that you stick your foot in your mouth a lot of times when you're young, because you say something and you hit somebody who walked an emotional road you didn't. Right. And you realize, wow, that's a whole different ballgame. Or you know someone who's become homeless and you think differently about a situation the way you might have not thought when you were 22 years old. You know, right. You see things that have changed in your life and give you perspective. And then you try to portray it to your family, your children, your employees, the people around us.
Which is why our parents get smarter as we get older.
Yeah. And I'm grateful for it. I mean, I'm grateful for it. There are many times where, you know, their emotional intelligence, their ability to cope with things, like all that stuff. I completely agree. It's just, but we don't know it yet. Like we just don't
know what you don't know.
That's it. You don't. And you know, when you talk about emotion, it's really interesting. I've always felt like a meditation for me happens when I listen to music. And I often find moments in music where in a song, I think of exactly how that would impact me, or how a story, I can almost see a video in my brain of what they're talking about and how it affects my life and how it makes me think. And there's an ultimate presence in that. Probably the same presence someone feels when they're watching a movie and they feel the feeling that they see.
Well, music. That's why music is the universal language, though. That's why. Yeah.
Well, I love it.
Are you a musician?
No, I'm not. I wish I was. I like to tell all the musicians out there and my musician friends that without the set of ears like me, you wouldn't be able to actually hear that. So ultimately, yes, I think musical talent is definitely something awesome, but I like to listen to it.
Great. So I see for the people that are watching that I have my next guest, Kim White, on. Kim, we just need like 2 or 3 more minutes, if you don't mind.
Problem. I'll see you soon.
You.
How you doing, Scott?
Hey, Kim, how you doing?
Good.
Oh, you know Kim?
I don't. Nope. But we just met. So now I have any guest of yours is a friend of mine.
Thank you. Okay. So here's my last question to you, Scott. And if people are expecting my normal last questions, you have to go back and listen to part 1 of our conversation. You know, you do these podcasts enough, everything happens, right? I actually thought that interview was 2 hours from now. I'm glad he showed up. So now I know. Anyway, tell me, what's the last book you reread and why?
Reread. You know, honestly, I think right now there's lots of business books and things I can tell you that I reread all the time. But the answer that I've been going on a spiritual journey, and I've been rereading the Bible and spending every day, every morning in deep reading, listening, and prayer. And the truth is, you know, I feel as I've hit this next chapter of my life, just a great depth of blessing and gratitude. You know, you see so much, you learn so much, and you get to see all the things that have happened to so many people and the impact that I've been able to make in my small space. I'm just so grateful for it. And I think that it's allowed me to step back into a spot for me that's been where I grew up. And I feel this connectivity, not just to my faith, but to the tradition of my family, to our culture, to my grandparents, to the things that they raised me on. And it's a depth that goes way deeper than just rereading Think and Grow Rich, which I've done 20 times, or, any of the other ones. Like, it's a different depth, and it makes me think on a whole new level. So, that's kind of new. I would say that's in the last 3 years or so, I've really been on that journey, and I've enjoyed it.
Great. All right. So how can people learn more about you?
Easy, scottdanner.com, and keep following podcasts, because I'm doing these types of things. I don't get to talk to very many people as wonderful and phenomenal as you, and I could learn from you all day. So I know our conversations will continue. We're going to do this more and more, both in person and in the future.
How about I be a guest on yours?
You will definitely do that. So I'm getting ready to launch a podcast. I haven't launched it yet, but I'm right now building that out, and you will definitely be on there. I can't wait to learn.
So that concludes today's podcast episode of The Trust Doctor, Restoring Trust and Enriching Significant Relationships. And since I know you were blown away by Scott Danner, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And I'll see you next time.
Once again, we've concluded another great episode of The Trust Doctor with Dr. Patty Ann. Tune in next week for more insights and advice on how you can create, nurture, and sustain healthy relationships. To find out more about the podcast, visit drpattyann.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. Until next time.